Good morning, Oracles. Well, last night, Tesla Silicon Valley released part 2 of their interview with Elon. So we're going to go into a lot of what he talked about there. Just a couple of pieces of news that I had found that I wanted to share with you guys first. First is Tesla is seeking a location for a new plant, not just in the US, but in Mexico and Canada also. So they're looking at a bunch of different areas here in North America to try and find a place for a new plant. We know that they've gotten their offer from Indonesia to set one up there, so I have a feeling we're going to be getting 2 new plants. One is going to be in North America, and one is going to be in the Southeast Asia region of some sort, and Indonesia right now looks like it is going to be the winner. We shall see how that plays out. So moving on with the interview, Elon had mentioned that Rivian and Lucid have an intersection with doom coming up if they do not change their expenses. They're heading just straight downhill, and if they don't do something about it, they're going to crash and burn and go bankrupt. I mean, Elon knows himself from experience that is totally possible, and luckily Daimler had bailed them out basically back in 2008. They had gotten some credits in 2010 from the government, which they actually paid back early, and they had to pay more money on top of it. So basically, us as taxpayers got money in return because Tesla had paid off their loans early. So when it comes to Rivian and Lucid, they are backed by some significant players. Rivian is backed by Amazon, and Lucid is backed by Saudi Arabia. So they do have some big money that can support them through this, but unless they change course and fix their expenses now, it could spell trouble for them. I mean, Rivian had capital expenditures the same as Tesla, but only $95 million in revenue coming in. That's a huge swing in the opposite direction that you want to be going. So they've got to see some massive growth coming in and cut expenses to reverse course on this. Lucid is a little bit on the smaller scale with $655 million in capital expenditures. But both of these companies are at $1.2 and $3.9 billion in debt, respectively. So looking at the two of them when it comes to debt, they have way more debt than Tesla. Tesla has about $100 million in debt currently, and they have very little revenues coming in. So they have zero cash flow generation to pay this off. So the direction they're heading right now is just building up more and more debt. Now, Tesla was doing the same thing over the last decade, so not to say that these two companies cannot do that, but we're going into some very difficult economic times, similar to what Tesla went back through in 2008 and 2009. So, can they pull this off? The future will tell. We shall see. Looking at the future right now when it comes to Rivian and Lucid, there's at least a huge momentum push towards EVs, where Tesla did not have that in 2009. We'll see how this goes, but Elon put out a dire warning for both of these companies to pay attention to their expenses, because if they don't, they're not going to be around much longer. And Elon spoke about the EV tax credits also, where Tesla does no longer get them because it's only up to 200,000 vehicles, and they hit that a long time ago. And GM actually has crossed that threshold as well. So there's a lot of other companies who are benefiting from this tax credit, and Tesla is not. And Elon said that if the tax credit was eliminated altogether, Tesla's position would improve dramatically, instantly. But despite being at this disadvantage of not getting these tax credit, Tesla is still clearly far, far in the lead and beating everyone else. So as a new car company, it's very difficult for them to survive. Very few startups do well when it comes to automotive making. So looking at reasons why, Elon goes into it, and he was told one time that, the car companies aren't going to make it anymore because what ends up happening is they get most of their profits from parts for older vehicles. That's what it is. They make very little money on the actual vehicles themselves. Most things come from parts. And in order to have older vehicles that are out of warranty, you need to have a fleet that is large and over 5 years old. That's where you make your money. So this going now to Legacy Auto, that's how Legacy Auto is making their money. And that's how they can keep startups from even getting going, because these startups need to crank their prices way up on their vehicles in order to make profits. Nobody's going to want to buy their vehicles because why would they spend so much more money on this vehicle when they could buy a less expensive Chevy or GM product or a Ford of some sort? So Legacy Auto has just locked up that place, whereas Tesla stepped in with a product that was new and different and so much far beyond what everybody else could imagine at an affordable price for most people. And even Elon got into it, talking about if you don't have a vehicle that's affordable to the masses, you're not going to survive either, which is one of the problems that Lucid and Rivian also have at the moment. And so then when you take in the fact that Legacy Auto makes most of their profits from parts, and they have to switch over to EVs where they are not profitable, this goes back to where we talk about they have to cannibalize themselves. And it's not just cannibalizing their ICE vehicles, the ICE vehicles are what are giving them profits. So sure, they can transition from EVs to ICE vehicles. They're still going to have plenty of old ICE vehicles in their fleet to have parts coming in that are going to be profitable for them. But eventually they're going to hit a point where these ICE vehicles are going to be gone and they're going to have EVs. So Legacy Auto right now is trying to figure out the math and time frame so that they can transition over so that when they stop being able to sell parts for the legacy vehicles and their ICE vehicles, they'll be making enough profits from their EVs. And Elon did mention in the interview that while they have a whole lot of other things that are going on right now, they have an overwhelming focus on full self-driving. Elon sees autonomy as a huge game changer in the future. This is very much like sustainable energy. So sustainable energy and autonomy are going to be revolutionary technologies that are going to take over the world. This is going to be very significant. And so when it comes down to it, Elon did say that a new car company like the Rivian and the Lucids, and even if you're going to look at GM, Ford, and the Legacy Auto as an EV startup basically, in order for them to succeed, they are going to need to be electrified, which they're all going that direction, and have autonomy. That is what the future is going to be. Tesla, we know, is obviously working on it. Others are doing the same. But if you don't have it, you're not going to succeed. And because Tesla is willing to, outsource it to other automotive manufacturers, if they don't have it, Tesla can provide it, more benefits to Tesla. And this is why their major focus is there. He then goes on and explains why, it was morally right to start a factory in Texas rather than California, because in order to expedite the switch to sustainable energy, they've got to do it as quickly as possible. And it would have taken 2 years just to get the permits to build in California, whereas in Texas, they had the factory completely built in 18 months. So taking that 2 years out means that they were able to transition to sustainable energy that much faster. And then they asked him a great question about why he feels the need to kind of dip himself into politics and some of the drama that is going on. He was talking about the UAW and how much he does not like them because they're so corrupt, and obviously, looking at the current administration, they're heavily persuaded by the UAW. So, Elon gets into these things, and he said he learned a lot of it from his teenage years. Teenage years trying to, himself search for what is the meaning of life. And he goes into, it's a lot about, not seeking the answer, but rather seeking the questions. And it's about, we know that the universe is the universe, but ask the questions, why is the universe the universe? What are these questions that we can ask? And it's a matter of expanding the scope and scale of consciousness. Man, and this reminds me of a conversation I was having with Steve Farmer in the comments, because he and I think very similarly like this. And it's like, how much knowledge can I gain? I am constantly learning. A wise man knows that he will never know everything. That's really what it comes down to, and that's kind of where Elon is pointing in this direction. And when he's looking at politics and things like that, it's, what can we learn from this? What questions are we asking? Why are we going in this direction? What can we do to get ourselves to be a multiplanetary species? These are all the different questions that he's asking, and the political pieces of it go into this, because that's, when it comes to the human consciousness and the human psyche, that's a huge piece of all of that. So getting into these things is part of what just intrigues him about learning. And so that's really what it all comes down to. So yes, I know a lot of us look at it on Twitter and like, why all this drama? Why this and that? It's just Elon and who he is. And he is just seeking a higher level of consciousness, an understanding for the universe. And that's just a piece of it. It's a lot of, why are we the way we are? and why is it that we do the things that we do? So that's really what it all comes down to. That's me ad-libbing it, but that's really what it all comes down to when it comes to his philosophy and why he thinks the way he thinks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Two very different questions. One, how do you feel about Rivian and Lucid in the future? Do you think that those two are going to go bankrupt if they do not control their expenses? Second question is, what is your philosophy on life? Are you looking to expand your consciousness and look to just kind of, learn as much as you can possibly learn? Let me know your thoughts, because I know Steve and I, when we finally do get to meet, are going to be sharing these thoughts over some tacos and margaritas. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on all of this. Let's see how today is going to play out with the FOMC meeting. Let's see what we're going to get for a rate hike. Let's hope we get to wear this shirt again for you guys tonight. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all of the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. We do have a Discord chat. That link is in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel any further, I am over on Patreon. I will be sharing my investment and income statements. I will be sharing all of the Tesla price targets I have through 2032, as well as my production forecast through 2022. Thank you so much. Have a great one.